Guitar Solo Countdown.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy Wolf's Guitar Solo Countdown. This is episode 21, and today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be ranking the 12 Halloween films from worst to first. So it's still a countdown, but there's no guitar. This channel is going to be more discussion, music, movie discussion, podcast based than just the guitar solos. But if you're interested in the guitar solos, just go to Jimmy Wolf Bites, which is my other channel. All right, we got that out of the way. So in the co-pilot chair, I got the amazingly talented Sam Piper, an artistic polymath. She's into everything: musical theater, performer, singer, visual artist, teacher. But most important, she's a horror fanatic like me. So I think this is a good pairing.
Yeah.
Why don't you take it away, Sam? Maybe just give us a history of Halloween and when you first got into it. And, yeah.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, it's, I guess it all started when I was a young child. I guess that's how the story begins. I got into horror really early in my youth. I remember pretty specifically finding in the library when I was like in elementary school this like terrifying book of children's horror stories, which sounds crazy, but it was a very scary, defining moment. And I was very, very young and I lived for it. I loved it. So it just sort of seemed like a natural sort of progression that as I grew, I also really started to like other scary things, specifically horror movies. I mean, I got into the slasher genre pretty early. I remember being in like the 5th grade and a friend of mine was like, "You gotta watch this movie called I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's so scary." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds, yeah, I'm into it. Cool. Watched it, loved it. From there, it was like, what else can I get? It was like, give me it all.
Nice.
Bring it to me. And then, I watched Halloween pretty early into this discovery of love of horror movies. And to this day, like, definitely the scariest experience with a horror movie that I've ever had. Hands down. I have never been more scared in my life as I was when I was a kid watching the first Halloween movie. Like, it was insane. Nightmares for weeks. Nightmares even as an adult. I've had Michael Myers nightmares. So this one's a really special one for me. I'm excited. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Don't really have anything else to add. I do remember the first time I saw Halloween 1, the very first one. Was that, I think it was sounds funny, but I think it was at a church, in a church basement at some kind of youth group, and we were all pretty young. It was on Halloween though, so it made sense, you know.
Yeah, what a creepy place to sort of watch that though as a kid.
Well, it was, but it was more for me. It was more just fun. I mean, yeah, obviously it's scary, but it was just fun having everyone there, and it being Halloween. It felt like a tradition, it's such a traditional movie. Because it's so
totally.
It's just connected to Halloween, right? So you're supposed to be scared. So yeah.
It's true. It's true. But it worked. It worked really well.
Yep. All right. So let's get into the countdown. So there's quite a few movies here. I made a list. 12. Yeah, that's even more than Friday the 13th, which is a lot too. So
yeah. Holy smokes, that's a lot of movies. Some good, some terrible.
Yeah. There was a couple that were really hard to get through.
Spoiler alert.
Definitely gonna be a spoiler.
Oh yeah.
Alert.
Yeah.
Now, also, this is just our opinion, so I mean, don't get mad if we're a little bit contrarian to your own opinion.
Yeah. Don't send us hate mail, or if you do, be prepared because I will send you hate mail back.
Respectful hate mail is fine.
Yeah. Right. Respectfully, I hate you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, you want to go first, Sam? Let's.
Yeah. Are we just starting from like the top of the list and working our way down?
Yeah. Worst.
We're starting with worst. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I actually want to say that this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. going into this, I was like, this is going to be pretty easy. But it had been a while since I watched a lot of these with like any kind of like eye for detail. So it was, at the end of the day, I was like, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. However, there were some that were quite easy, and this was one of them for me, because for me there was no lower point than Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Gotcha.
No, it was honestly like, I didn't think that was going to be the one that I hated the most. I really didn't. And it straight up was. And I have I don't know, we both took notes. My notes for Halloween 6 were just angry. It literally started with, is this even a slasher anymore? Because that's the main thing about it. I was mad. This movie, to me, it completely like takes away any of the scare factor that Michael has, because I don't want to really go into this weird fantastical backstory about him. It takes it all away for me. And that was like the biggest thing, is right off the top, you're like, what world are we even in right now? It was crazy. Did not like it. I'm just looking through my notes here to make sure, because some of the stuff that I eventually literally stopped writing, because I was like, I can't. This movie's a bit of a headache for me. Okay, I don't.
So we'll go back and forth. So you
okay, cool.
Do your 12, and then I'll do my 12.
Oh, we're doing the whole. Oh, wow. Okay.
Back and forth. Yeah.
All right. Oh boy.
Yeah,
okay.
I just didn't want you to give away your 11. That's it.
No. Okay. All right. So you're gonna do your 12th now, or I'm gonna do my 11. Okay.
I'll do my 12.
Okay, you do your 12th. I'm actually really excited to see where you went with this. Okay.
Yeah, for me it was really easy, and that's Halloween 5. Yeah, Halloween 5 was it felt very incompetent, felt amateur-ish, didn't feel like a professional movie to me. It just felt like it was just a complete mess. It's like a college student's film project or something. It was a total mess for me. I mean, the only redeeming quality about it was I did like Danielle Harris, the girl that played Jamie Lloyd. I thought she was a great actress, but and I mean, she had that kind of psychical connection to Michael Myers. Like whenever he was going to do a murder, she would kind of start convulsing. I mean, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. It didn't work, but I do like her.
Bless her. Really talented kid. Probably really messed her up.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially it probably wasn't very good for her career, just considering how bad the movie was. But yeah, that's my least favorite.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was bad.
All right, how about you? What's your number 11?
So my number 11, 5. It was number 5. Yep. And for all of the reasons that you mentioned, they honestly, like, the notes for this one were so long. Again, mostly angry notes. The thing I wrote in caps lock, I'm like, the whole premise of the movie, why don't you look for his body?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like the whole way it starts, it's like, this is stupid. Are you all dumb? Like after this, you're just going to let, I guess he's gone 1 year later, like, are you kidding me? It was really dumb. Yeah. Halloween 5, thumbs down, not a good time.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay. So it seems like we're on the same page here. My number 11 is Halloween 6. Everything that you said.
A little reverse. Yeah.
Yep. I think the only, I would say that I did kind of, I mean, I am into the occult. Like I like researching that stuff. So the whole kind of druid curse, the thorn curse, I mean, it didn't work and the movie was a mess, but I was a little interested in that.
Yeah. I mean, that part is cool. I mean, like, you're right, like the occult stuff. And they actually did a lot of like research on like the druid stuff. So a lot of it is like, okay, that's interesting. I think my main qualm is just that, like, the idea of just him just being like a cursed kid who actually didn't even really want to be doing all this bad stuff and he's just cursed. I'm like, come on, that's not scary. You've taken it away. Yeah. That's.
And I was hoping that Paul Rudd was gonna, be a little better. I mean, but his
God bless
character
him.
was too weird, and I mean, I didn't.
Such a
I didn't like
creep.
that character either.
Why does it open with him like Googling his name? Googling was a different thing. There was no Google in
Google
95
the
or whenever this came out.
brand search name yet? Yeah.
But like, he's just like staring at her across the window. Like, that's creepy. I'm not on his side right away. Right? Like, yeah. Paul Rudd, I love him so much.
He got a lot better for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought as I remembered thinking about Halloween 6, I was like, oh, I think I remember like the good part about it. I even said this to you was that Paul Rudd's in it. So like, that's at least something to look forward to. And then I was like, oh, this is just bad. No, even he can't save this. Yeah, not good. Not good.
All right, Sam. So you're on your number 10 now.
Number 10.
Yep.
For me, number 10, Halloween Resurrection.
Oh yeah.
Halloween Resurrection is number 10. And I, again, like this one, I will watch this one over and over and over again because of Busta Rhymes. Like, he is so funny in this movie. I'm going to start with the positive. He is gold in this movie. Well, are we allowed to say the F word? Because I'm about to say the F word.
It's YouTube.
It happens a lot in this series. When he comes out at the end and he's just like, trick or treat, motherfucker. And then proceeds to do kung fu on him with some pretty racist kung fu noises, I'll add. But like, oh my God, it's so funny. And the scene where it literally is dressed as Michael Myers and Michael Myers comes up to him and he's like, yo, Charlie, what are you doing? I told you I'm going to be Michael Myers. And they have this blowout where he's like, get out of here. You're ruining everything. And like, I'm like dying laughing. And he's the only redeeming quality of this movie. Everything else is bad. From the moment it opens, it's just terrible. The acting is atrocious. Jamie Lee's acting, as usual, is great, but she's only in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then she pieced out, which I understand. Yeah. I would too. It was terrible. Everything about it. Hate it, except give Busta Rhymes a daytime Emmy, or whatever it is. Post-daytime Emmy. I don't know. Give him something, because that was a great performance.
This movie tends to get the most hate of the entire franchise. I did a bit of research, and yeah, it's usually always at the bottom.
Yeah. And then the very bottom, like I like it more than I like Halloween 5 and Halloween 6, but it's really bad. And there's like so much unnecessary things. Like I get like, just why? First of all, the early like internet stuff is kind of hilarious. Like as if it was that instant when they're messaging each other back and forth. And it's like coming in, he's like, he's behind you. I'm like, you're sending that from like MSN Messenger to her crappy phone. That's not going to be that instant. She's already dead, right?
Yeah.
There's so many stupid things about it. It's just off. Done.
I
love it.
Yep. Okay, for me, this was confusing for me because I think these movies are well made, but I hate them. And I'm going to go with Halloween from 2007, the first Rob Zombie movie. It's structured in a 3-act play. It's Michael at his home life and in school, and then the second act is him in the hospital with Loomis, and then the third act is basically just a recreation of the first Halloween, which I really respected the third act. I don't know if the first two were necessary. It's kind of like that. I think what you were saying with the Curse of Michael Myers, where you're just showing too much.
I don't need to know.
We need to know like that he was from this really broken, trashy home. I mean, does that really add to his character? For me, I think it's better and more mysterious that his family was probably just a normal middle-class American family that was just a normal family. And that's kind of what you assume from the first few Halloween films, right? Like it seems like he just randomly decided to kill his sister. Like it was just completely random. There was no reason for it. And I think
terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying and it's mysterious, but I think what Rob did was he had to give a logical explanation for why he screwed up, which it just takes away from the mystique. And so I'll try and cut it short here, but yeah, and also I respect Rob's hillbilly horror style.
Mhm.
It's very like reminiscent of like Tobe Hooper movies, like the carnival imagery and just the really trashy kind of like middle American trashy, white kind of family thing. Like he's really into doing that.
Mhm.
It was also in White Zombie. Like a lot of his music is that kind of hillbilly rock and roll, which I love White Zombie, but
Yeah, the aesthetic of it is cool. You get it.
it's a cool aesthetic, but I don't like it. It's very off-putting for me,
Mhm.
and maybe
Yeah.
that's the whole point of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't enjoy this, and it's just there's a lot of really just gruesome, unnecessary violence. I mean, there's even a really horrible rape scene too. That just
That's it, and that's where you lose it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So one half my brain's like, yeah, I think it's smart. I get it. My heart and my soul, it's like I hate this. So yeah, I have to put that lower on the list. I just
Yeah. And fair, because I tend to agree with a lot of what you said. That
yeah.
yeah, not the best.
No.
Not the best. Good try though.
Mhm.
Thing is about like the Rob Zombie one, was that there was it's there were certain parts of it. If you took out certain aspects of it, it could actually have been pretty good. There are parts of it that I like, but you lose me instantly. Like, especially like I didn't watch the version that has the rape in it because there's the two versions, and I really can't watch the rape one because honestly, guess what? The guy who the scene involves, he's already a dick in the movie. Like I already hate him. He's a scuzzy, gross, like perverted. He's gross. I don't need to see him do that.
Well, totally. Yeah, it's just unnecessary.
Unnecessary.
Which I think is a lot of the violence too. It's unnecessary, and it's too graphic. It shows too much, and there's no mystery. I mean, it doesn't. Yeah.
And I'm not like particularly. I've never really been perturbed by gore, and I can see like I've seen a lot of gory things before, but I think the difference is that when the gore is like his shots are so up close. That one scene where he beats the kid to death with the stick is awful to watch. Like the close-ups, and you just see like everything. It's unnecessary. I'd rather just see like if he had just squashed his head and his brains went everywhere. I would have been like, cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's kind of like it's almost more fantasy in that respect, where like you're squishing his head, or it's like a lot of the Jason films where he squishes someone's head. Or
not gonna happen in real life, but
it kind of makes it less gruesome in a weird way because it's less realistic and it's less.
My stomach was in knots. I was like, oh God, this is brutal. And that poor Spy Kids kid. That he was in Spy Kids. That's what I don't even know his real name. I just know the kid who gets beaten. He's in Spy Kids. And I just, like he was a jerk. He was a bully. And he said there's some language that this kid uses that I'm like, if I was your mother. But God, he just gets.
Just kept going. Yeah, just kept going. Yeah.
So long. For so long. It was such a long scene. I was like, oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, me being an adult, it's like I don't want to see a kid get beaten to death for a long time.
No.
It's not entertaining. It's not. I don't get anything from it. It's just off-putting,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Yeah. All right, Sam. So what's your number 10?
Rob Zombie, 2007.
Wait, sorry. You're on 9. Sorry, 9.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and that was 12, 11, 10, 9. Yeah, that's it. And it's Rob Zombie. Yeah. That's where I followed with after Resurrection. Like Resurrection had to go down there because it's just a badly made movie. And I have to give at least to Rob Zombie. You're right about everything he said, and I completely agree, but I have to at least give to him that his filmmaking is a lot better than what Halloween Resurrection is. So that's why I give him a little boost up the list. But for all the reasons, like, I mean, there's something kind of funny, right, about the hillbilly thing when you watch it. And I remember seeing for the first time the scene where, he's retelling the story of Michael Myers' childhood, and they're all in the kitchen, and you're meeting these absolutely disgusting, like this drunk stepdad or whoever he even is probably one of the most atrocious characters in this entire franchise. He's absolutely disgusting. He's a sloth. I cannot stand him. Yeah. But like, there's something funny kind of about watching this dynamic where he's like, hey, like, I'm gonna go fuck the shit out of you. And you're like, what the like, what? This is breakfast.
He was pretty funny.
Like, you're like, that's extreme, but like, this is breakfast. And she's just like, shut up, you fucking asshole. And like, I'm like, my God. But, I think at the end of the day, the backstory of it all, it's, props to this kid who played Michael Myers. Again, he's probably got some issues he's dealing with later on, because there was some messed up stuff that he had to do in this. And, I give him props, but it's weird because I'm torn on it. When you look at the movie as a whole and you look at what Rob Zombie did with the beginning of it and then the second half, it's like you really do see in the second half when he sort of gets to do his own thing. It's not, it's kind of interesting to watch what he does with it. So the opening where it's like this backstory, in a way, I'm like, okay, cool. I get what you're trying to do. You want to make it your own, and props to you for that, because you can't make it John Carpenter's. But then he tries to do it in the second half, and it's just boring. Like, I zone out in the second half of the movie, because I'm like, he didn't do anything in the second half to improve or adapt to his own, I guess, real style in the second half. It just,
yeah. I kind of felt like the last act was kind of like The Image of the Mask. It's like hollow. It's like this hollow movie where it looks great. He's doing all the right things. He's even got the right, like, the music even.
Yeah.
But it feels soft to me. Yeah. It's like, like all
and honestly,
it's gone.
And honestly, like, I'm just out. The sexual assault stuff, I can even give it to you. Like, I will be on your side a little bit if it's more like, okay, like, for a story purpose, we're going to imply it, but I don't need to see it graphically. I already know. I don't need to see it. And also, it's just it always just feels like a cop-out, It's like, why did we have to go to sexual violence? Yeah. I just don't get it. And it always feels a little bit like, and sometimes I'm watching and especially as I get older, I'm like, man, I don't know. Sometimes I get the impression that Rob Zombie sometimes the women characters are just questionable in their writing and in their kind of, because it's not very feminist.
No, not at all.
It's not very feminist.
Okay, so my number 9, Halloween 2, 2009, so the Rob Zombie sequel. I like this one a little better just because I think he was doing his own thing here, which I kind of respected that. He's kind of off doing it feels more like his the Reject movie or the House of a Thousand Corpses. Kind of has that vibe to it.
Yeah.
I like the imagery of the white horse, and I thought that was cool. I like that symbolism. I don't know if that's in the franchise that well, so I totally understand why people are confused by that. And I really like the Wolfman scene in the van. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was a funny scene. That was a good scene.
Yeah, that was good. I also, it's gruesome, but I also did like the scene when they hit the cow, and it's of his face as he's.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
That was a great scene.
That was brilliant
See,
scene.
stuff like that, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, gross.
Like, really gross. Yeah, and it's like you can imagine. I mean, being in that level of a car accident where like you're hanging on,
and your buddy next to you, his face is just decimated. You're like,
and it's like, what do I say? What do I do? It's almost like he's kind of just like, how do I vocalize this panic or extreme scenario that just happened? That was, That was good.
Yeah.
And I do like the scene too where, well, when that whole kind of silly thing's going on in that guy's kind of shaggin' van or whatever. There's that hillbilly concert. That was cool. Like that like that aesthetic of that really wild, hillbilly concert.
Totally.
Really cool. And that, I guess that's kind of what I do get about Rob Zombie. Like I do like that kind of stuff. It's more just kind of the vibe and the aesthetic. And it's the non-violent stuff. It's more just the background.
Yeah.
I really respect that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a great movie. I mean, like overall, it's a bit of a mess. But
it's a bit questionable. Yeah.
Yeah. But kind of like okay moments. Okay moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I was not looking forward to watching this one. And I think I mentioned to you, I'm like, oh, I got to watch Halloween 2 with Rob Zombie. And I really didn't want to because this is the one Halloween movie that I've only seen one time.
Okay.
And it was when it first came out. And I just remember hating it so much that I haven't ever watched it again.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So that was interesting for me to rewatch it because I actually didn't hate it.
Okay.
And that actually, I don't know if we want to because that can segue straight into my next one.
Segue, go for it.
Because my next one was Halloween 2. And I was really shocked watching it because I really remember hating it. And I don't know why I hated it. I think I guess in a way, especially when I was younger, I was just so much more of a purist about it. And I was like, this is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't understand none of it.
Yeah.
So watching it again, I was kind of surprised. I actually was like, dang, it's not bad. Like, it's not bad. I think, when he sort of gets his away from having to adapt exactly what John Carpenter did, and he gets to go on his own little thing with it. And I think the trick is if you watch it thinking that it's not a Halloween movie, or you can almost separate it from the fact that it's part of the franchise, then on its own, it's there's some good stuff in there. And, we hadn't mentioned it yet, but I'm actually here for Danielle Harris again, being back for these movies. Cause she's Annie in these.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She's grown up, but yeah, she plays Annie in, she's not a kid anymore.
It just kind of clicked there. Right? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And so that's really cool. And she does a great job. I think the acting in it is so much better. I sort of like that. They took it from, again, Rob Zombie's aesthetic. It's in the first one, it was this really dirty podunk hillbilly. Everyone was just so redneck and nasty. And in this one, it's more of a gritty grunge carny coke kind of aesthetic. And it's all right, I mean, there are parts of it that are just if you just sit back and enjoy it for what it is, it's really cool. And the Michael in this, I mean, he's brutal. When he does the killings, I'm just saying I wouldn't want to face off against him. He is really bad. He just basically just stabs you and your whole body explodes.
Yeah, it's pretty out of control.
What? How did he do this? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Halloween 2, I was surprised. I definitely thought that it was going to be lower on my list for sure. I was surprised by that one.
Okay. So I'm on number 8. So my number 8 is Halloween Resurrection. It's a little higher up the list, I think, than a lot of people. So for me, I just had fun with this movie. It's one of those good, bad movies. It's bad, but I enjoyed it. Yep. I'm sure there was a fair amount of nostalgia. Just, a lot of those stars were in other big films, obviously Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks. And there's an American Pie guy, right? Thomas.
Yeah.
In there. So there's a sense
and, what's that other actor's name? Is Sean Patrick Thomas or something? He was in.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. There was a bunch of not big names, but big enough. Well,
big enough.
Yep. Busta Rhymes, big enough, right? Yeah.
Now I don't remember Bianca Kylik, but I don't know. She just seems like a girl that I would have totally had a crush on 20 years ago. So I was into kind of having her as the main character.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So, yeah,
Yep.
she was-
Yep.
So she was cool.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a mess of a movie, right? I mean,
But there are really good moments in it. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's almost hard with this one because you're exactly right. Like there's nostalgic reasons, and then there's also the good bad factor of it, like that
Yeah.
make it like I'm gonna watch it again. You know, I know I will, but man, I mean, there's just some parts that are so cringy. I mean, yeah, it's I get it though. I totally get it.
It's like the
Why
opposite
it's
of the Rob Zombie films, where it's like intellectually it's a bad movie, but it's fun. Whereas Rob Zombie, it's intellectually really, really well done, but it's not fun. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely fun in it. Like you're watching it and you're like, okay, I'm laughing, which is a good thing because the comedy has to be in there, right? You gotta have that. You gotta have a little bit of laughter in there. Yeah, I guess like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see why it's up there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I'm not gonna like fight like over this film and defend it, but
No, but I will say, like, I mean,
yeah.
I wrote the most. Like when I was watching this one, I wrote the most like of the quotes down that were ridiculous because there are like I wrote who wrote this, and I need to look this up who actually wrote this script because the script is like it's good bad. I mean, I think one of my favorite things is let the dangertainment begin.
Yeah, that's right. The Dangertainment. Yep.
Who wrote this? And then first of all, I give you that she's pretty good, the lead actor. And maybe you're having a little bias over it because honestly though, she's a terrible actor. I'm gonna say she's so bad, and they really leaned into this like I'm not like the other girls thing with her, which drives me insane. Like she even says at one point, like, can't you see? I'm not like the others. I'm not strong. And it's like, right?
Oh, yeah. I think for me, it's completely just a guy seeing a.
Yep. That's okay. But I'm here to crush that for you. She's terrible. She's truly like unwatchable in some parts. No, but it's good. I mean, there's like, okay, what's another line I wrote up here? Because they're just so funny. Oh, the American Pie guy saying, one flash and you could light up 1,000 computer screens. And then her response is, haha, you crack me up. What? I don't know. Some of these, and screwing a music major would be tantamount to lesbianism.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that one.
Who wrote this? I need to know. So yeah, I mean, there's good things about this.
Well, and I think the controversy was that it was directed by the same director that did Halloween 2, like the original.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that movie is usually, way up the list. So like shouldn't he have done better? I think that's
yeah, and I get that because he should have.
Yeah, for sure.
He should have. Maybe he was out of ideas. I don't know.
Now, one thing I will say is obviously the kind of the controversial death of Laurie at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, why kill off Jamie Lee Curtis because she's so great? But I think in hindsight, I'm like, well, they're gonna bring her back anyway. So, I mean,
honestly,
does it really matter if she dies?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, if I was her, I'd have been like, please, just, you know what, just kill me. I'm done. I'm so done. But I mean, it wasn't for a moment. It's kind of annoying though because it just in the moment where you get a little close up of Jamie Lee and you're like, oh, but you're supposed to be the last girl. Always, you're supposed to be. But I get it because honestly, I'd be out at that point too. Honestly, I don't want. I've lived my whole life with this guy trying to kill me. I'm done. No, it's not worth it anymore.
Now there was that story about. I think you told me about this earlier about why they had to kill her off in this movie.
Yeah. So I mean, like, at least according to her, the interview that I watched was like she basically wrote it into her contract after H2O. She was like, okay, I'll go for the ending that you guys sort of want to do with H2O because it was apparently not the original ending, which I will get into. But she said, okay, fine. Like, I'll go along with this plot at the end of H2O. To bring him back for resurrection under one condition, and that is that when the movie opens, I'm in an insane asylum and I die. Because it's done. It's done. And I don't blame her. I mean, honestly, especially with that movie. Oh God, poor woman. Such a stain because it's just, she's so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. So you're number 7.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I have number 7. Wait, let me make sure this is number 7 before I announce this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So my number 7 was Halloween 3.
Okay.
And it's actually, so I lied before when I said that Halloween 2 was the only one I'd watched once, because I've only ever watched this one through once, but I have seen it in snippets, caught it, playing on TV or something like that. So I had only seen it once through, but I've seen it enough times that watching it again was a nice treat. I really liked it. It's a little bit lower on my list than I think it is on a lot of other people's, and that's mostly just a personal taste thing, and actually has nothing to do with Michael Myers, because I like, I think the main reason that people have qualms with it obviously is the lack of Michael.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for this movie because I know that originally John Carpenter wanted it to be an anthology series when they started making it. So I sort of respect it. I like that they I like that they did it. You know what I mean? Because that's what it was originally supposed to be. And, it didn't work for people because no Michael Myers. But when you look, I think like nowadays people are starting to have more of an appreciation for it. Because it's actually a pretty good movie. It's got some moments. I mean, I think the main reason it's a little lower for me is because it's a little weird for me. Like, it's just a little on the weird side, and I respect it. But yeah, it's a little kooky. So I love the premise of it, though, that like this creepy like factory is just gonna kill all these kids and makes guts, like bugs and snakes come out of them, and it's just like it's a really gross movie. And once it starts going, like, I think I'm getting about 45 minutes into it, and it really kicks off, and like it just goes one after the other after things start happening. It just starts happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, there are some of the nastiest but most creative deaths in this movie that people are just missing out when they skip Halloween 3, because the scene where she's digging at the little microchip with her hairpin, and then her face gets literally like emulsified. Like, I don't know what happens. It's like, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's so gruesome. And even the scene where the guy comes in and like basically breaks that guy's face with his hands.
Yeah.
There's some next level stuff. The creativity in this horror movie is off the charts. So I have a lot of respect for it as a movie, and I really enjoyed watching it again, but it didn't really scare me too much, which is also a little bit of a factor that I'm looking at. Like, I do want to be scared, and there was no fear factor whatsoever for me in this movie, but it was really cool. So
nice. Yeah, I think the consensus on this one is it was, at the time, it got really negative reviews, probably because of the branding like issues. But I think it got reevaluated quite high. And it should be. Yep.
It should be. Yeah.
Yep.
It's definitely in there. I remember asking, like, are we gonna do Halloween 3? And if you had said no, I would have been like, well, that's a bad idea. But you didn't. You said, yeah, of course.
It is part of the franchise, right? I mean,
absolutely. Hey, and Michael Myers does make a couple of appearances in the movie, right? Like, he shows up in his movie in the movie.
Yeah, he's in the background, right? On the the background television there.
Yeah, they're showing Halloween, and he's like, oh, there's Michael Myers, right? So he's in there. People are just looking for a reason to complain.
Yeah.
It was a great movie.
Oh yeah. Okay, so for me, my 7 is Halloween Kills.
All right.
So this was the newest one.
Yeah.
Came out in 2021.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, okay, to be totally honest, at this point, I'm getting a bit of Halloween fatigue. I think it's just, it's the 12th movie.
You mean watching 12 movies in like 5 days? You're not. What? What do you mean?
Yeah, it gets a bit tiring. There's a lot of characters in this movie, like a lot of people, and I think it it's like it shows that they're all grown up now, and they kind of have this sort of this group. They meet at this bar and they talk about their traumas with Michael Myers, and so it's this. I guess the overall vibe of this movie is it's the town coming together to collectively fight Michael Myers. I think that's the overall theme of this movie, which is cool.
Didn't they sort of already do?
I
guess they didn't, because that movie doesn't exist.
This level, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Halloween 4, but that doesn't exist in this timeline. So forget what I said.
Yeah. But I think for me, it's the problem of getting away from the original vibe of the first movie, which was it was a very simple premise, right? Just a very simple plot, not a whole lot of characters. And I think when you get really like into details and all this complexity of all these different people, I was really confused who was who. I was just getting really mixed up. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
I tuned out a lot of the time for this movie. But it was well made. I mean, there was some good scenes. I did like the ending where it must have been Jamie Lee Curtis was saying it, where Michael Myers is more, it's this symbol where when you try to defeat him with brute force and aggression, he gets stronger. So it's almost like you're feeding into his evil by being evil to him. It's this weird, which is an interesting thought. It's like it's the human condition, right? It's like war. It's like you're fighting an enemy, but by fighting the enemy, you're creating this chaos and violence yourself. You're involving yourself in who you think the enemy is. I mean, in this case, unlike war, it can get really gray and confusing who's good and bad. But I mean, with Michael Myers, it's clearly but yeah, it's the symbol of by being aggressive towards him. And there was also a lot of symbols of like the mob going after the wrong guy in the building.
Well, yeah, and I was just gonna say that was kind of heavy, that part, because I in a way I expected something like that to happen. Just by nature of seeing a mob assemble, I'm like, oh god, it's not gonna end up being good, because it never is. That was a little bit like, oh no, they got.
But I guess the moral of the story is you got to fight Michael Myers with love. I don't know.
But like, what's the third movie gonna be? Then are they gonna like, let's try hugging him? Like, I'm not going near him.
He just disappears. He just vanishes with a nice hug. I don't know.
I mean, what are they gonna do, right? Yeah, yeah. It kind of introduces another layer of like supernatural when that happens, though, which I'm not always on board with. So I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like Loomis kind of was the guy that sort of just kind of hinted at it just really briefly. It's like Michael, he's pure evil. And that's all he did. And that's good enough.
Yeah.
Right, Sam, so you're number 6.
Okay, so
we're halfway now.
Yeah, we are. And I also think I should, because I'm very worried about getting a lot of fights on these going forward. But I do just want to say that, like, going from this point on, and actually probably from the last one on, it was hard because I like all of these movies. So when I'm like putting this in an order, when I say the next one, it's not necessarily because I don't like it or I think it's bad, because it's still pretty low on the list. It's just surprising how low this one's going to be on the list, I think, for a lot of people. But I love this movie. So it's not a matter of it being like, oh, it's bad. It's just, it was hard at this point to get up to it, but I put Halloween 4. I really loved Halloween. I love Halloween 4, and Halloween 4 is probably the one that I've seen the most because it's always on TV at Halloween. Like, they always play Halloween 4. Halloween 4 seems to be everywhere. I think this is a great movie. It's good bad, or bad good, however you would put it, because a lot of it's just, again, there's some bad acting, and God bless them. This is the year I was born, and a lot of the acting in that time was not great. And especially in horror. But it doesn't really matter because I don't know, there's some kind of weird aesthetic appeal about just how bad good it is. Mm-hmm. And I really like the introduction of the kid, of Jimi. I think it's an interesting way to take it. And it's sort of, I remember watching it the first time and thinking this is actually pretty scary because not often is the lead protagonist a kid. And that kind of brings a whole level of scary too. You're watching this poor girl just get absolutely traumatized for, 2 movies. But in this one especially, you're just like, oh my God, like, oh wow. And she's so great in it. Like as a child actor, like, you know, she's given quite a performance. That had to have been like not an easy thing to do. Yeah, I loved Halloween 4. I really liked it. I'm just trying to think if there was anything. Oh yeah, some of the deaths in this one, I remember they start to get really crazy. Like the guy getting a thumb through the head. Michael just jabs his thumb into his head. Like, you're dead. And then I think the sheriff's daughter gets like killed with a shotgun, like, but not like shot, but like stabbed with
the shotgun. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that would hurt. Like, yeah, it's like, so there starts to get really like kind of some creative deaths in here, but yeah, it's a great one. And the ending of it is awesome. I love the ending of it. I think that it leaves it on such a good cliffhanger and you're like, oh,
yeah.
And it sort of for a moment sort of harkens back to like the original ones where you're like, oh, like that. I remember this image of the kid in the clown costume holding a butcher knife and you're like, ugh, again, right? Like, I like it a lot.
Yeah. No, there's 2 good points you brought up. So the first one is there was a massive decline in quality in all 3 of the major franchises, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween. For some reason, the late 80s was just, it lost a lot of its luster. I don't know how that happened. I mean, probably, and all of them. And also, there was definitely a line that was crossed where I'm thinking more so with Jason and with Michael Myers, where they became supernaturally strong, where like they could basically crush a guy's head, you know, like, I think in Friday the 13th, it happened around number 4.
Yeah. Something like that.
Michael Myers was always kind of a strong guy, but I think part 4 was the first sort of, okay, he's beyond human. Like it'd be very difficult to ram a shotgun through it's possible.
Right through her.
How do you do that?
Honestly. And like this movie, I actually love, I know I keep saying that the aesthetic of, I do love horror aesthetic, like watching for that stuff. And like, it's really cool. Like just how people, even not just the actors, but like how they're dressed and how the movie looks and stuff like that. And this one's got a lot of good ones because what was I thinking? No, never mind. This is not the one where, no, Tina is in this one, right? She's just in it for a little bit.
I don't remember.
Anyway, the costuming in this one is just so good. It's so peak 80s and everyone just looks ridiculous. That guy's eyebrows, her boyfriend. I'm like, kill this guy now. Like, get him out of here. Like, I can't deal with this. The aesthetic of it is really, really good. It's cool. It sort of reminds me of my childhood a little bit, even though I wasn't like a child at that time. But it's nostalgic too, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So that was your number 6.
Yeah, I think so.
Number 6 is same one, part 4.
Hey, lining it up.
All right. So we won't go through that again.
We know why.
All the same things that you said there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your 5? Number 5.
Oh no, we're on 5. This is exciting. This is like getting down to it. Okay, so my 5 was Halloween Kills.
Okay.
Yeah. My number 5. This, and again, it's getting tricky up here, but all of the same reasons that you said. I think I maybe enjoyed watching Halloween Kills more than you did, it sounds like, because it in a way reminded me a little bit of how I felt watching Scream 2. Like, it was like watching the first Halloween, well, the 2018 Halloween, but just a little more extreme. And maybe I should say a lot more extreme. Like, a lot more extreme. But yeah, there was like, I really liked this. I liked Halloween Kills. I mean, I love the flashbacks they do to like the 70s. And I know this, I think they sort of touched on that in the first one, but like they did the whole going back with the cop and like, and seeing some of the young, the Lonnie kid and just sort of revisiting that time period was kind of cool. And I also think that the way that they shot it, and this goes for both movies, but the way that they shot it really sort of reminded me of the way that they shot the original one, right? So, yeah, I really like this one. And Judy Greer, I have to say, I always loved Judy Greer. Her performance in this movie is fantastic. The fact that she's still wearing this Christmas sweater, it's covered in blood, but she's still wearing it. And her performance is so good in this. And, there's a lot of kills. Like there's a lot of over the top, killing in this one. And I'm trying to like, when we were talking about watching so many of them, it's kind of hard to keep straight which one is from the first Halloween movie and which one is from the Halloween Kills one.
Probably did have the highest kill count. I mean,
but I think it did. Yeah, like it just seemed like he was killing people like every 5 minutes or something. It seemed like. I felt bad for the kid who gets it was her boyfriend, and he's like he gets shoved through a staircase, and then like his head twisted off. I'm like, oh god! Like there's some brutal scenes in this. Yeah. I don't think it was as good as the 2018 Halloween, but I thought it was pretty good. I had a good time watching it.
Yeah. This I'm starting to kind of realize that like a lot of these films in the franchise, they kind of come in pairs, right?
Yeah.
Have like part 1 and part 2, the original 2 are kind of one unit, and then part 4 and 5 are kind of a unit.
Yeah. H2O and Resurrection. Yeah,
that's a unit, and then the 2018 Halloween and this one seem like they're a pair.
Yep.
So, it's interesting. It's because this continued right after 2018, right?
It takes place on the exact same night, so it's cool to see like the continuity and stuff is really neat. Like you don't feel like much like with the original and going into the second, where you almost feel like you're actually just watching one long movie. I felt like it sort of it did a good job at that, at being that sequel of like just kind of moving through the same time and the same night. And it's pretty good. I thought it was a good one. I had a time watching it. Yeah.
Cool.
Good times.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So my number 5 is Halloween H2O.
Yeah.
So just like you said, for me, I like them all now. It was fun to watch them. It wasn't like, oh, I can't wait for this to end. Yeah. I forgot to say, I fell asleep during part 6, and I had to watch it again because I had most of it. So
I don't know how. Honestly, if I was going to fall asleep during it, there's no way I was reminded. So it was meant to be. Yeah.
So H2O for me, this is just an overall good horror film. Just seems like it's just everything was done correctly. It feels like it's of the time, but it's well done. It was Steve Miner was the director, and he directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3. So he's got experience.
He knows the slashers. Yeah.
Yep. He knows how it's done. It's star-studded. It's got all the Josh Hartnett and the guy from
Michelle Williams. Cool J.
Oh yeah, LL Cool J, of course.
Oh my god, I live for it. He's so good at it.
He was the inspiring romance novelist.
It's so funny, and I'm sorry. I love that they did the scenes where you can hear his wife or girlfriend or whatever chirping at him. Like he'll read her the scene. He's like, "Round melons." She's like, "Round melons? That has to be the stupidest thing I ever heard." And she's just giving him crap. And he's like, "Oh, come on."
It's great. It's so great. Good. Yeah. And I like how Jamie Lee Curtis she's starting to take on the more empowered female role now. Because in the first 2, she was kind of the I guess like the damsel in distress, but now she's kind of the protective mom now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And she's always great. So yeah, for me, this is a great film.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm obsessed with this movie.
All right, awesome.
I love it.
So you're at number 4 now.
Segue.
Yeah.
My number 4 was Halloween H2O.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. I get all the reasons that you said. This movie is so good to me, and it's super nostalgic for me because this was I was a teenager when this movie came out. All of these stars were like on all my magazine covers, and also it kind of like it followed a little bit Scream, I guess. And Kevin Williamson, who produced and wrote Scream, was also executive producing this one, which is really cool. So you get I found there was a little bit of a Scream edge to it, right? Where you have these like, good looking young kids and they just getting slaughtered. So that aspect of it was cool. I really liked it. I have to say too, I can't believe I neglected this part, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt, at the beginning of this movie, getting a hockey skate to the face is one of the best kills in the entire franchise. It is so memorable to me when she walks in and he's got the skate to his face. Yep. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, this movie is iconic. Now, I laughed because I never noticed until you actually sent me that video about the masks. I didn't ever notice that stupid CGI mask, and that threw me this time. I was like, oh, it is. It's early 2000s or late 90s or whatever it is. Like CGI, not good. Didn't notice at the time, but yeah, it's a great movie. It's so good. I live for this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, I have to point out too, I could talk about this movie forever. I'm sorry about this one, but I mean, how genius do you have to be to have Jamie Lee's mother, Janet Leigh, the original Scream Queen, make a cameo appearance where underneath, so you got these two Scream Queens having this like great dialogue together, and underneath you can hear the Psycho music playing.
Oh, I know. Yep. Fantastic score from this whole movie. It was it's the only orchestral, like a proper orchestral score in any of these movies, and it was John Ottman, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just a brilliant seasoned composer. So yeah, it's really cool when you get that.
It was a great movie.
Not taking away from any of the synth scores. I mean, because those are iconic too. But yeah,
in their own way.
Yeah, like an actual orchestral.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 4 is Halloween 2018. So the third self-titled Halloween movie. Super confusing.
It is honestly so confusing.
This movie I thought was for me it was close to being a perfect film. For me the big issue was I really didn't like the dialogue. I thought it was I don't know how to explain it. It's like that really kind of cheesy kind of young Hollywood humor. It sounds like
I know what you mean.
It's like an older screenwriter writing for a younger person.
And it was.
Yeah, it probably was. Just kind of cringy,
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's like that poopy humor, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's getting old,
Yep.
It's like in all those Marvel movies, it's all that really campy humor. But besides that, I mean, it was awesome. I liked the beginning when they're in that asylum and they're all standing outside on that floor, and you gotta go talk to Michael, but he's got his back turned and can't cross the line. That was brilliant.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. In the bathroom scene when he comes into the bathroom.
Freaky.
Was freaky.
And reminiscent of H2O, because there's a scene in H2O that's very similar to that where he comes into the bathroom. Terrible.
Yeah. Really creepy. That's definitely, you don't want to be killed when you're on the John. That's uncomfortable. And I love that Jamie Lee Curtis is, so I mean, in H2O, she's this sort of like, like psychologically aware and empowered mom, traumatized, but trying to protect her kid. Mm-hmm. In this movie, she's just a full out like prepper, survivalist, doomsday, it's wild. And it's great. And I like the vulnerability that she had too. She's such a great actress. So she had
good.
this total I'm preparing for the apocalypse with all her prep stuff, but at the same time she still had that vulnerability, right, where she walked into the restaurant, took the glass of wine and was kind of a glass of wine 1 minute, and then the next minute she kind of runs outside and is crying. So it's like this duality within her, and I mean she plays both sides really, really well.
I agree.
And yeah, it's really cool. It's like it's her versus Michael Myers, right? And I mean she has the brains, I guess, and Michael Myers just has pure brute evil force. And I mean, it's a really well matched ending. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's if the dialogue was better, I would this might even be close to the top, but
yeah. I mean, it honestly, I know what you mean about the writing. So it was written by Danny McBride, and I think also the director also helped to write it, but I know for sure Danny McBride, who is, if you don't know who Danny McBride is, he is kind of one of those, oh God, what's his name? Judd Apatow guys. Like he does a lot of work with them. So Seth Rogen and James Franco and stuff like that. So he's got, it's got Danny McBride written all over him, the dialogue. Like I pick it up, I'm like, I know which lines are Danny McBride's. Like, and it is that kind of, it's almost like they're trying very hard to sound like relatable almost, and you're like, but the thing is, most people don't talk like this.
For sure.
Like, so, that's what I understand what you mean. Yeah, I do submit for your approval, though. There is one line in it that I had quite a chuckle at, because I was like, that's a funny line. I think the stoner kid, I don't even remember what his name is, but he says something like, Michael Myers, isn't he that guy who went out and murder-lated all of those teenagers? Murder-lated. I was like, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Good line. Danny McBride.
And I think my issue is if it was all kind of in one, like in a comedy film, and that was the environment for that type of humor and dialogue, I'd be fine with it. But when it's in like a horror movie or an adventure movie, I don't know. It's the fusion that kind of bugs me, maybe. I don't know. I remember being really like confused when I heard that Danny McBride was writing the screenplay, because I only see him as like a comedy, like and very like body comedy guy, like very like vulgar comedy. So yeah, I mean, I was a little bit like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you though. A lot of the dialogue was forced too, just sort of like, you wouldn't say that. I don't know. I get picky about stuff like that because I'm an actor. So when I hear dialogue that I'm like, but that's not how you wouldn't say it like that. You wouldn't say that, right? It's annoying. Yeah. All right, Sam. Number 3.
Number 3 was Halloween 2018.
All right.
There we go. For all reasons mentioned. Yeah. I mean, I will say that I really did dig this movie. I love how many references from the former movies there are, even the ones that like weren't, like, they're not included in this plot line, right? But there's references to Halloween 4, there's references to Halloween 5, like all of these, like, just little snippets that actually was cool to watch again, because I caught, like, watching all of the movies in succession, I caught way more of the references than I did the last time. So that's just really kind of neat, right? I like sort of the this one. I mean, I said earlier that like the Rob Zombie movies can really feel like very anti-feminist, but this one I really like, because it actually does kind of feel like you're watching women that are like, yeah, okay, this is, thank you, someone finally, writing women in a way that they should be, because this is ridiculous after this long into the franchise, like, thank God. Because it was a lot more like, there was a lot of especially with Jamie Lee and Judy Greer, her name's Karen, and the young girl, like, you're like, yes, kick his ass, girl, yes. Right? Like, yeah, trap him in the basement, burn his ass. It's not gonna work, but
the effort's there, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. No, I really like this movie. I thought it was good times. Good times. Felt like watching the original too. I think that was an important thing, is that it a lot of the way that, again, it was shot and just the things that they, again, having John Carpenter do the music probably really helped with that. But it's cool.
I remember I haven't really looked into the music of this movie, but I remember there's a lot of silence, which I think is awesome.
And they only kind of like the sound when it comes on is almost as it's jarring. It's a lot like it was in the original, right? Like you get those random like screeches and stuff. Actually, I was watching something and there was a certain part in the movie where I think it's Allison is her name, the young one. And she comes face to face with Michael Myers for the first time. And this sound plays, and it's one of those, it's one of the sound cues from like the earlier ones. I cannot replicate it with my mouth, so I won't try, but it's like that. Okay, I just tried, and there's also this, like, you hear almost like what sounds like a guitar just shredding underneath it, but it's weird. It doesn't quite sound like a guitar, but it sounds like a guitar. And the sound that it makes together is like really cool. It's really cool. And it's, I was seeing a video about it, and that they were talking about the way that they made it. John Carpenter's son played a violin bow over an electric guitar.
Oh, cool.
To get this really sick, like creepy horror sound. I thought that was so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was John Carpenter's son, I guess.
Son, yeah. I don't remember his name.
Cool.
Something Carpenter. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a good movie.
So I'm on my number 3 here. So number 3 kind of lines up. I'm gonna go Halloween 3 for my number 1.
Hey!
Number 3. Yeah, for me, I don't know if this is gonna anger some hardcore Giants fans, but I like the break. That, because I honestly, it's like with Halloween Kills, I get kind of tired of the same old. It's like, okay, Michael Myers, he's coming back. It gets a little repetitive for me. So this was a nice change. I mean, obviously, I think I must have seen this when I was like 9 or 10 for the first time, and I remember being confused. Obviously, right? I mean, there's nothing to do with Halloween except for the theme of Halloween, like the Halloween season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's confusing. But besides, once you get over that and you kind of realize that this is actually a really cool kind of like early 80s John Carpenter style cult movie, it's all, like it really has kind of that sort of Escape from New York vibe.
Yeah.
Completely John Carpenter. The music is amazing in this one. I think he does the music, and it's just such an awesome kind of early B cult movie. I love it, and it's weird, and I love the main character too. Tom Atkins he's just such a relatable guy, right? He's like
that stash though,
a divorced like alcoholic, just trying to make it work and trying to do the right thing with his wife, and she's just not having it. And but he's a doctor, right? So he wants to do good things, right?
Yep.
Such an awesome lead character.
He was great, really watchable. Like at first I was like, I can't watch this guy. Like that Tom Selleck looking mustache is just gonna distract me the entire time. But once I got past that, I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, it's great. The Cochrane, the Silver Shamrock, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Silver Shamrock. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a villain, right? That is the most.
I was actually gonna say he is one of the creepiest villains. I got really like I said, I didn't get too overly scared in it, but when he was on, there is that just like, oh man, this guy is just creepy. Yeah,
and just that whole like using a corporation that has a far reach into society to murder a whole population of children
on Halloween.
What
an
nothing more
asshole.
I mean, that's way more evil than Michael Myers, even, right? I mean, that's like Megadeth, right? That's way more than just kind of offing a few people in one.
Man, and that scene where they show him where they're like, this is what we're gonna do, and they bring in the family, and oh my god, that scene is shocking. You're like,
and actually there is a little bit of a tie-in here. So there's this is kind of the first time that they bring in the overt reference to the occult, and they actually do the druid. So, which I think that's kind of where part 6 might have gotten the inspiration.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even make that connection, but you're right. That could totally. Because I mean, they imply that that Halloween, like they sort of exist in the same universe as the Halloween movies do, at least in the sense that like they show the Halloween movie playing right in that movie. So, yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's cool.
Yeah. So and I think that's also, I thought it was great that they had the sort of science and the occult mixed together to kind of form a union, right? He's making robots at a factory, but he's using the power of Stonehenge, I guess, I mean, it's over the top, but yeah,
it's so crazy. I'm like, where did you get the Stonehenge? How did you get it in here? Come on, and no one saw you, as if, like,
yeah, I know. I mean, but it's cool how two sides of human existence, like science and religion, mixes together. It's really cool.
Yeah, it felt a little bit sci-fi-y, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely stands on its own. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm with you.
All right, so we're almost there. So your number 2.
Final. Holy smokes! Take a guess. My number 2 is Halloween 2. I mean, like when it got down to this, it was pretty easy for me because I mean, again, the scariness factor for me was a big one, and both Halloween and Halloween 2, like being helmed by Carpenter and Deborah Hill again, it just serves it really well, and it literally feels again like a continuate. It's like it's just a good sequel. Like it just flows well, I think, and God, some scary moments and just like truly awful. The poor nurse getting her face melted off.
Yeah.
I mean, and as if that's not bad enough, she was also sucking on Michael Myers' greasy fingers. It's like the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I'm like, oh, girl, how did you not know? Like, I'd be like,
yeah, you can't like you can't like smell his essence behind.
Like, come on, he's gotta smell terrible. Like, oh, just nasty. So like, I mean, then I mean, the movie's just it's really good. And my only thing that I really just wish hadn't happened in this movie was the introduction of them being brother and sister. It's the only thing that I just wish didn't happen, because that's to me where the franchise gets set off on this craziness that it ends up going into. And it just, again, it brought in it was that first inkling of just unnecessary. I didn't need to know that there was a motive there. It was kind of scarier thinking that it was just a random, like, this crazy guy returns, finds some girls, and just kills them for no reason. Like, it just sort of, that was the first little bit of inkling of kind of creating Michael into this super villain that he eventually becomes. Yeah. And just the one thing in this movie that I was like, I sort of wish that didn't happen. Now, it did spawn we've talked about some good movies as a result of that decision. But, also some really bad ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I love Halloween 2. I think it's great. I think it's a very good slasher and scares the crap out of me. That scene, where he's bleeding tears.
Awesome.
Terrifying. So scary. Like, I had nightmares about that image. Just like, no, not good. So yeah, Halloween 2.
Well, we don't need to do a segue because Halloween 2. Yep. I'll just continue where we left off. So so this is cool because it is right after the first one. So it literally, you could put them together and just watch it as one giant movie if you really wanted to.
Yep.
And
I have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The overall vibe I get with this movie, it's a little more intense, right? There's more explosions, probably a bigger budget, obviously, because the first one was so.
That's it, right?
On no budget, and and the hospital scenes were a little uncomfortable, You know, like, yeah, obviously getting your face melted off
Oh!
with water.
The needle in
The needles in the head, that was very disturbing. You know, the guy getting a hammer to the head in the utility room.
Yeah, the brutality was upped in this one.
It was up, but it wasn't Rob Zombie kind of, you know, distasteful. It was, you know, it was fine. I mean, it was bearable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the ending is probably the best ending out of any of the Halloweens.
So good.
Yeah, where he gets shot in the face and he's bleeding, like tearing blood from his mask, which is pretty symbolic, and he's just kind of slashing his knife like he's like a robot.
Yeah.
Gotta kill. I can't see, but I gotta kill.
Yeah.
Like, that was so cool. And
freaky.
Yeah, and then kind of like Halloween 2018, they decided to burn him, which is, you know, sure, if you can't shoot him and you can't stab him to death, burn him to death, right?
Yeah, you would think.
Logical next step.
But, you know, I actually have to keep reminding myself that poor Jamie Lee in the Halloween 2018 doesn't have the knowledge of all the other times that he's been like shot and killed and get decapitated and blah, 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 all that stuff. Because sometimes I'm like, Jamie, like, you know this isn't going to work. This has happened before. And then I'm like, oh, no, it hasn't. Not in this reality. Right? Yeah, he can't die. But it's a good, just slicing around at the end.
Oh, yeah. And for me, this is the best sequel. I mean, because I think we talked about how these movies tend to be paired up. And usually the second one doesn't really work that well. Whereas this one, the two work really well together. I think that's the only time that it really works well for me.
I would agree. It doesn't happen very often. Happen very often. In fact, the only other sequel that I tend to go to bat for is Scream 2 in any franchise, because mostly, sequels are just not good.
Usually sequels aren't better than the original.
Yeah, but this one, it doesn't even feel like it's better. It just feels like it's the same movie sometimes. So you're like, this is just, I agree. The way that it ended also, you know, it's sort of like, you know, when you're watching it, that is what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill intended to be the end of Halloween. And it is a great ending because, again, I mean, I harp on this a lot, but I don't love when he gets too supernatural. I mean, it takes away the scariness for me. The entertainment is still there for sure, but I do like the scariness too. So
yeah, and there's that thought in your head. It's almost like, what's the point of even watching these if he's not going to die?
If you know there's no way out, Well,
I mean, which is fun in its own right, I guess. But yeah, like, it's always you want that, like that thought in your mind that he can be defeated. Like, it can.
Right. It has to. You have to have some level of hope, because this is part of the reason with the Rob Zombie movies too. It's like, if there's not even any hope, then why am I watching this? You know, it's just depressing, right? So yeah, it was like, you know, even going into this next one, I guess the one that's coming in October, I'm like, I don't know, because at this point, after Halloween Kills, they've again brought him back to this like kind of supernatural zone. So where are they going to go with it? You know, like, I don't know, but I agree. Like, it's honestly, it just feels like such a solid ending right there. Halloween 2. There you go. Yeah.
All right. Well, probably no surprise to anyone. Number one.
Least of all ourselves.
Yeah.
Halloween, the original. And I'll tell you why, because you mentioned the budget earlier. I actually looked this up. The budget for this movie was $300,000.
Wow.
$300,000.
Awesome.
That right there is reason enough that this is the best movie of all of them. Because if that is what they created on that budget, perfect. It's perfection. It really is. Watching it, it's one that it scared the crap out of me as a kid. I watch it easily probably twice a year at Halloween. Like, you know, it's definitely going to be there. From the moment the opening credits start, and that tune, like, honestly, that theme on its own is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's so scary. And, you know, so from the moment it starts, you're unsettled, you know, and watching the pumpkins sort of like zoom in and start getting really rotty and whatever. It's like, ew, you know, you're starting it. What they did in the filmmaking of this and how they did the things that they did on a $300,000 budget, like, this is the best movie, hands down. I mean, yeah. What else can you say?
Oh, for sure.
Give them the award.
I mean, my number one is obviously number one as well. So we'll just mash them together. So
yeah,
like for me, the score is interesting because you've got that piano it sounds like an acoustic piano, right?
Yeah.
It's a very familiar sound because we all know what the piano sounds like. But then there's this really eerie synthesizers in the back. So you get this kind of which is cool. You know, you get like the dichotomy of Michael Myers even, right? He's this ordinary man, you know, but then behind him is what Loomis says, it's evil, right? So
yeah, and it's this like kind of heaviness. Like you're like, ooh, it goes from this light piano to that synth kicks in, and you're like, ooh, like I feel that in my belly.
It's a really nice layer of like the darkness that you can't really see or like make sense of, and the surface, which is, you know, it's familiar but it's eerie. It's perfect. I mean, it really is perfect, and just the simplicity. There's like it's like when movies have really convoluted, complicated plots, it really does take away from the emotional sympathy or like empathy that you have with the film. You're thinking too much. You're trying to piece all the parts together. I mean, maybe for like a murder mystery is fine, but for a slasher film, like
simpler the better.
Simpler the better. Yeah.
Simpler the better, because it's like the two slasher films that I consider to be the best slasher films of all time is Halloween and Black Christmas. And Black Christmas was first, and the formula that Black Christmas created was the perfect horror movie formula. You didn't have to see anything to be terrified by what was going on in Black Christmas. The first person camera shoots, like that, like, you know, it's a perfect horror movie, and Halloween really like took that and ran with it. Like, you know, you get a little more gore than you do in Black Christmas, but it's the same idea. You don't need to see every detail of what's going on, because I'll be honest, I'm a pretty imaginative person. So you just give me the implication of what I'm seeing, and what I'm imagining is going to be 1,000 times worse than what you're going to show me. I'm scared enough, you know, like, so yeah, I mean, it's perfect like that, you know?
I could be butchering this. I think it was Arthur McLuhan. Is that author? I could be getting his name wrong, but I do know that he did have that concept of like hot and cold, like entertainment. I think, where, you know, hot entertainment is like you see everything. It's like a video game, like a realistic video game. Like you see everything, it's all there for you. But like reading a book, or like, that's more like you're using your imagination. So your mind is helping to create the artwork, the art form. And I think that's what these movies that are simple do. It's like, you know, even with Jaws, it's like, you know, you can't really see all the deaths that are happening, but they are happening. So your mind, it's like that scene in Jaws when Quinn is talking about that story.
Yeah.
They're all just sitting in the boat and he's talking about what happened to him back in the.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Like, you don't see any of it. It's all the story that you're imagining. Like, and that's probably the greatest scene in Jaws. Yeah,
easily. And he's telling you the story, but you get to put that together in your brain. And it's genius. It's such good filmmaking, and it's such good storytelling. And that's the thing about this movie, is that, you know, it doesn't need the details and the fluff and the backstory and all of that. Like, the story on its own is what is so terrifying. The concept of this 11-year-old kid coming home from a night of trick-or-treating and just losing his mind and killing his sister is terrifying enough. The idea that this kid then grows up, which of course he would, and then escapes his prison cell and comes back to kill again, that stuff is like, I don't need to know more. It's scary. I'm there. Like, pair that with that William Shatner mask, and it's a recipe for just...
Yeah. And I think probably I would have to say, like, probably my favorite scene of the movie is the very first scene when he puts it's the first person, but he puts the mask on, and then the mask comes on the camera, so you see it, just these two little eyes, first person, like,
so scary.
But you don't know it's a kid, right?
No.
You only know once he's standing outside with the knife, and then you're like, oh my god, it was a kid that did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's really effective. And what a great shot. Like to think to have that, like that shot like that, because it just puts you right there. Even, not that you want to be Michael Myers, but you're like, oh God, like this is terrifying. This is very scary.
Yeah. And there's one note, one synth note the whole time. Just it is
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, it's so creepy.
And you can still hear his breathing through the mask too.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
Even thinking about it, I'm like, it's so creepy. It's so creepy. What I wouldn't give to be able to go back in time and become Jamie Lee Curtis to be in this movie. I don't think that would ever happen, but
it's also
good.
It's crazy how it worked out that her mom was in the other probably most iconic horror film of all time before that. I mean, obviously John Carpenter knew that she was her daughter, but I mean, I don't think he would imagine that it would have been as big as Psycho, right?
Right?
Yeah,
and it's crazy, and I love that. I love that kind of story that passed down the Scream Queen title. Like, that's just cool. It's really awesome. And she, I think she was really young. She was 17 or 18 in that movie, and just like is so good, so watchable. The dialogue that Deborah Hill specifically brought to those like three characters, like those three girls, it was so good. You really felt like you're watching like three young girls just being three young girls and just making jokes and saying inappropriate things and smoking weed, listening to Blue Oyster Cult, which like relatable. It was, it's just like, and then all of a sudden it's just torn apart by just this entity, this creepy, just disgusting masked freak. Ugh, gross. Hate him. Really hate him.
All right, Sam. So we're gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun.
I'm
gonna post a recap of our lists, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, man, that was awesome.
Is there anything that you want to plug?
No.
No. Okay. I already plugged mine at the beginning of the thing. So. All right.
No. Yeah. All right. Party.
All right. We'll see you.
Great. See you later.
Jimmy Wolf's Guitar Solo Countdown.